Jai Shri Radha Girinhari ki Jai. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamana Tira Vanachari. Yamana Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parudikacharya Ashtotar to the Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parudikacharya Ashtotar to the Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, who knows the verse? Tapas, you there?
Yes, Prabhu.
What's the verse?
34.
34?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, that's on page 170. Oh, not on the floor though. Just pick that Yeah, sorry. Chapter 3, page 170, text 34. Okay. On this second day of May, 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 3 entitled Karma Yoga, text 34, top of page 170. Indriyasyendriyasyarte Raga Dveshao Vyavastitao Tayor Navasham Agachet Tao Yasya Paripantinao Indriyasyendriyasyarte Ragadvesha Vyavastitao Tayo Navashamagachet 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 Tao Yasya Paripantinao. You want to try? Indriyasyendriyasyarte Ragadvesha Vyavastitao Tayo Navashamagachet Tao Yasya Paripantinao. Anyone on Zoom?
Indriyasyendriyasyarte
Indriyasyendriyasyarte
Ragadvesha Vyavastitao
Ragadvesha Vyavastitao
Tayor Navashamagachet
Tayo Navashamagachet
Tao Yasya Paripantinao
Tao Yasya Paripantinao. Okay. Word by word. Indriyasya, of the senses. Indriyasya arte, in the sense objects. Raga, attachment. Dvesha, also detachment. Vyavastitao, put under regulation. Tayo, of them. Na, never. Vasham, control. Agachet, one should come. Tell those, he certainly. Asya, his. Paripantina, stumbling blocks. Okay. Okay. Translation. There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. Purport. Those who are in Krishna consciousness are naturally reluctant to engage in material sense gratification. But those who are not in such consciousness should follow the rules and regulations of the revealed scriptures. Unrestricted sense enjoyment is the cause of material encagement. But one who follows the rules and regulations of the revealed scriptures does not become entangled by the sense objects. For example, sex enjoyment is necessary for the conditioned soul, and sex enjoyment is allowed under the license of marriage ties. According to scriptural injunctions, One is forbidden to engage in sex relationships with any women other than one's wife. All other women are to be considered as one's mother. But in spite of such injunctions, a man is still inclined to have sex relationships with other women. These propensities are to be curbed. Otherwise, they will be stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. As long as the material body is there, the necessities of the material body are allowed, but under rules and regulations. And yet, we should not rely upon the control of such allowances. One has to follow those rules and regulations unattached to them, because practice of sense gratification under regulations may also lead one to go astray. As much as there is always the chance of an accident, even on the royal roads. Although they may be very carefully maintained, no one can guarantee that there will be no danger even on the safest road. The sense enjoyment spirit has been current a very long time, owing to material association. Therefore, in spite of regulated sense enjoyment, there is every chance of falling down. Therefore, any attachment for regulated sense enjoyment must also be avoided by all means. But attachment to Krishna consciousness, or acting always in the loving service of Krishna, detaches one from all kinds of sensory activities. Therefore, no one should try to be detached from Krishna consciousness at any stage of life. The whole purpose of detachment from all kinds of sense attachment is ultimately to become situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidhammena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this chapter is entitled Karma Yoga. And it's important to understand the distinction between Karma Yoga and just plain old karma. Karma means activity. And in different contexts, it has different import. If it's just standing alone, the word karma means whatever you do is karma. And it's understood that without reference to the instructions of the Shastra and the path of liberation, then whatever we do is going to entangle us more and more in this world. Because we come into this world and we have the senses. We have the senses, we have the mind, and the senses automatically are built for becoming attached to certain sense objects. The eyes want to see beautiful things, the fingers, the hands want to touch soft objects, the smells, certainly nice taste. They're all out there. That's what material life means. So, if we just live an ordinary life without any reference to Krishna consciousness, then we'll get tangled in a certain variety of those things, according to the modes of nature. We may be leading a life of mostly the mode of goodness. We're not looking for extreme sense enjoyment, but rather refined, cultural, nice music. We go to the country, we meditate a little bit, but it's still sense gratification in the mode of goodness. And as Krishna will explain when we get to chapter 14, in the material sphere, the modes are never purely situated. There's a mode of goodness, but there's some tinge of passion and ignorance. And sometimes the passion overcomes the goodness and you get into passion. If you keep associating with people who are in the mode of passion, then you don't be in the mode of goodness anymore, you'll be in the mode of passion. So this is material life. And when it's all said and done and the body is collapsing and we're dying, the mind is still there. And the impressions of all those pleasures and the pains, because there's also aversion to pain. That's another side of conditioning. That's all part of your mental construct, and that's what forms the template of your next body. And off you go to another body, hopefully a human body, but not necessarily. And then you have another set of senses and the same thing. So karma yoga is meant to guide us in activity that gradually detaches us from this entanglement of the senses for the sense objects and the mind and the senses work together. So it's leading to liberation. And Krishna gave us this key verse, because because after all, this book is basically about bhakti yoga. And he's saying, text 30, my sarvani karmani sanyasyat chetasa. Therefore, Arjun, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claim to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. Page 170. So, then Prabhupada says at the beginning of this purport, this verse clearly indicates the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. So it's important. And when you analyze this, just if you try to approach this from just an ordinary person's point of view, not a devotee, because it makes perfect sense as a devotee. But if you just look at this verse, what he's saying is all the fruits that you make from your work, dedicate them to me. Mai sarvani karmani. Surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit. Well, how am I going to live? How am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to buy the groceries, laundry? My kids got to go to college. How am I going to do that? Doesn't seem reasonable. Nirashir, without any aspirations for success in this world, without desire for profit. Nirmama, without a sense of proprietorship. What about my bank account? I'm not going to have my name on it? I mean, how does that work? In other words, it's completely contrary to what ordinary calculations are, right? And then with all of that, you can't enjoy the fruits of it. You can't even, claim it as yours. You can't have an aspiration. And then fight. In other words, do what I want you to do. Work hard, whatever it may be, without being lazy, without being lethargic. Seems like an impossible situation, claim. But that's that's because we start our calculations from a fallacy. That we are the body, and the interests of the body and mind, which is part of the body, subtle body, those are my interests. And it's not even a thought. That's just an axiomatic principle that everyone lives by in the conditioned state. Right? That's just the way it is. And now this verse completely challenges that. No, exactly different. In other words, you use your body, Rishikesha Sevanam, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. This is one of the definitions of bhakti. You've heard that verse before? Okay, I'm just thinking, because you nodded. It means using your senses for the service of the master of the senses. Rishika Isha. Krishna is the master of our senses. That in itself is a big concept to for material. But that's and the whole idea is that the ordinary life, where there is some sense gratification, there's some pleasure, there's some measure of happiness, but basically you're doomed. Whatever you hope to achieve in this lifetime, as time goes on, either at the point of death or before that, is taken away from you, or you find that it doesn't meet your hopes for what it was supposed to be. Even the basic, family life and of course relations with children and wife and husband. These are what people get most of their pleasure from. But it's temporary. It's like fleeting. When you get older, you can see what a lifetime is like. I've basically lived a lifetime already, 74 years. Some people die earlier than that, later. It didn't take that long. And the thing is, as you get older, time goes faster. It's just the sense of time passing just goes faster. And so, without any assets in Krishna consciousness, I'm like, I doubt if I'm going to go back to Godhead. But I know I have some assets, I would think that I would realize, what did I really accomplish? You can have some false view. Okay, I get this plaque, and my family remembers me, and this and that. But what about you? What about your soul? You're going to a whole different situation. You're going to forget all about this. It's no different than a dream. Sometimes you can remember something in your dream, right? But then what about the week later? And a week later, it's gone. It's just gone, right? The dream is gone. So whatever was important in that dream, and sometimes things wasn't really important. It was just an illusion. We have an urgent question. We have a mic? Well, must be urgent. We have a mic next to you. We have another mic floating around because I brought two of them out here. Anyway, you have one. Okay.
So maybe I'm not understanding right. Are you speaking about yourself? Because my thinking is, I don't know exactly how many years, but you've been in the service of
almost
Krishna.
50.
So how are you saying I've done nothing?
No. You misunderstood me.
No. Okay, I was hoping I was.
Yeah, you misunderstood me. I was saying if I didn't have any if I did not have any assets in Krishna consciousness, then whatever sense of accomplishment, it would just be. I couldn't even, because death is looming, and that's going to be the end of this life, at least for sure.
Yeah.
And what's going to be left? Even if I accept transmigration of the soul, but I have no idea of getting out of it. That's just, in other words, all right, I'm going to take another body, but everything that I thought was important, I'll forget everything. So what was the value of it? We place great value on it, but all the relationships are gone. Your relationship with the money, your house, your body. It's just like a dream.
Yeah, but I mean, for you, or your teaching and the editing and so on.
I'm saying for me, at this point in my life, I think, okay, at least I did something.
Yeah.
So there's some asset there. So yeah, you misunderstood.
Okay.
So the idea is that there's two radically different views of life and what's important in life. There's the ordinary view, which we're probably familiar with. I won't go into detail, but it doesn't think of what's my eternal destiny in life. It's in this lifetime, right? And I've got what am I going to do in the next 10 years? I can, and as you grow up, isn't it like that? I mean, it was when I was in high school. Okay, be a good student, work hard, you'll get into this school, you get a job, you'll be successful. It was totally disrupted by the Vietnam War. I won't get into that. Not that I went over there, but it made it all seem me. Hare Krishna. My Blessed Father saved me from that. That's another story. So anyway, back to this. So Krishna has set this up, and this whole, and we're coming up now, and hopefully we can start it. The last 6, 8, 10 verses of this chapter, and it's all about our eternal enemy in the form of kama, lust, strong, powerful material desire, headed by sex desire, but not only sex desire. And it's a key section. So the Krishna is saying here, okay, surrender everything, all your works to me, full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, no claims. And then he says, those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions, I just gave in the last verse, and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruit of actions. And that's the goal of this chapter, to get free from karma, both good and bad, so-called good and so-called bad. Bad means that you suffer. You did some sinful activity against the laws of God, laws of nature, and you suffer for it, either in this life or the next life. Bad karma. Good karma is you're a kind person, you give generously, you do something good for others, and you get the results in your next life. You get a beautiful body, you have some wealth, you have some comfort, or you go to heaven, But again, it's temporary. So, but here he's saying you get rid of from the bondage of fruit of actions, good and karma, bad, and we want that. That's preliminary. But those who don't follow out of envy of me, disregard these teachings, do not follow them regularly, become bereft of knowledge, be fooled, they're ruined in their endeavors to perfection. And it's not said here, but they suffer like anything. And it's not going to work to try to repress the activities. He said at the beginning of this chapter, you can't do nothing even for a moment. You remember that? Even if you're just sitting there quietly, your mind is working. Okay, my right leg hurts, but I'm not going to say anything. Right? You're active inside. I tried that. I tried meditating like that. So what can repression accomplish? This is a famous phrase, because it really gives us the basis of how Krishna consciousness can include all of this, getting freedom from karma, because your senses are active. Just like now, you're using your ears, mind, chanting, dancing, feasting, painting, making this temple. The senses are active, but they're connected to Krishna. There's no question of karma, but more importantly, you're purifying the consciousness, you're purifying the senses, the mind, so that your natural love for Krishna can awaken. And that includes everything. That includes liberation, but more importantly, it includes the ocean of bliss and happiness, which is really what we're looking for. So now, in the present verse, he says, there are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. So this is not, these principles are not exactly, we're talking about the Bhakti Shastra at this time. This is just those who are in Krishna consciousness, naturally reluctant to engage in material, but those who are not in such consciousness should follow the rules and regulations. So this is the idea of the other Vedic literatures, which, the idea is people are attached. They're going to want to go to heaven. They're going to want to improve. So we'll give them a way of doing it a regulated way so they're not committing gross sin and getting completely entangled. And in the process of doing that, karma kanda section, there is some prayers. Om is there, prayers for Vishnu. So there's some Krishna consciousness in it. Now this was condemned by Narada Muni when Vyasadeva was dissatisfied at the beginning of Bhagavatam. Those who read the Bhagavatam, the first canto, first few chapters. Because especially in Kali Yuga, that's not going to make it. That's not going to work. And it didn't work. Because there's some, concession for sacrifice, even animal sacrifice, and we know that it's only there because the Brahmins can chant the mantras and they'll get another body. But people forgot about that. And therefore Buddha came. Didn't refer to the Vedas, and one of the main teachings was ahimsa, because cow slaughter was getting rampant in India. And so then we had to have Shankaracharya bring back the authority of the Vedas. We normally say, Shankaracharya, he wrote the Vedanta Sutta commentary, which is all impersonalism, Mayavad. But that was an important step, intermediate step, to reinstitute the authority of the Vedas. And then came Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya to defeat impersonalism and again come to the point of the Bhagavatam commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So that's a long story we won't get into. So, one should not come under the control. So the idea is that we don't want to throw in the towel, so to speak, and think, okay, I'm going to be attached. That's just who I am. So I'll follow the principles of some regulation. In this way, I won't suffer too much. Krishna is saying, don't do that. Don't get attached to the regulated sense gratification. Aspire to sublimate all the activities of senses in Krishna consciousness. Yes, we may have a concession for some sense gratification at first, but we want to minimize that and work under the Bhakti Shastra. And so that's the principle here. The basic principle is that Sarvopati vinimuktam tatpadatvena nirmalam. This is one of the definitions of bhakti in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Free of all false designations, based on the body. Right? Sarvopati vinimuktam tatpadatvena nirmalam. Nirmalam means free of any impurity. So in other words, don't conceive of yourself as the body. That's the first lesson. You're a pure spirit soul. Each of us has a different machine, just as we have a different car, But the basic principle is that we drive the car to the important destination. So, yes, there has to be some concession, but temporary. It's not for a lifetime. The idea is to look toward renunciation. And don't come under the control of such attachment and aversion, because they're stumbling blocks on this path of self-realization. So I'm reminded of one verse. It says like this. This was taught to me by the elder Mahavishnu Maharaj, who passed away some time ago. He used to spend a lot of time here. Dehesti mangsuduri debi matam chajasva. Jaya sutarish sadama matam vimuncha. Pushyani sham jagadidam chanabanga dishtam. Vairagya raga rasiko bhava bhakti nishtam. And that last line directly pertains. So her first thing it says, don't love the body, just a bag of flesh and blood and bone. Give up your sense of ownership. Give up your sense of ownership for all you think you own, and that's right in the verse here. Nirmamo. Nirmamo means not mine. There's nothing. Everything belongs to God. Give up your sense of ownership for all you think you own. At every moment, see that your world totters on destruction. Become detached and learn to love the Lord without obstruction. Now, I always point out that that last line I couldn't really do justice to with my little poem. Because the word is vairagya raga. Vairagya raga, which means become attached to detachment. In other words, aspire for becoming not only attached, free of attachment, but free of aversion. You see, that's mentioned in here. Raga dvesha. The dvesha it's the flip side of raga. That's just as entangling as raga. That's why we always say to be equipoised in happiness and distress. Get to that point of Brahma Bhuta, where you're free of lamentation, you're free of Icha dvesha, what is it? Brahma Bhuta prasanapana shochiti nakanchiti. No lamentation and no hankering for the material things. Why? Because you're tasting Krishna consciousness. That's why you have to become rasika. Vairagya raga rasiko. Become attached to detachment to material things, but become totally attached to Krishna and everything related to Krishna's service. And that the path to doing that is through the holy name. Because anyone can chant anytime, any place. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And that sound itself is Krishna. This is completely inconceivable, but that's the important realization. Even if you just accept it, theoretically, it's true. So what does that mean? It means anytime you want, you can be associated with Krishna. And Krishna is all attractive. It means he attracts you away from all of this material stuff. And then but we're still in the material world, so what do we do with that? We use the materials, our senses to begin with, life, air, money, whatever we have, plus whatever we can engage in Krishna's service. So it all becomes paraphernalia, including your own body, for serving Krishna. But you yourself are not performing any karma, because the motivation for acting is to please Krishna. It's all coming from him. Just like Arjuna, right? Arjuna, at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, in order to satisfy his own senses and see his relatives alive, see his beloved guru and grandfather and others alive, he was going to leave the battle. He said, no, I'm not going to fight. How can I fight? What's the point of getting this great kingdom which will be soaked with the blood of the people I love? How is that going to please me? I'd rather go off and beg somewhere. But because he's a Vaishnav, because he's Arjuna, he didn't do that because his friend Krishna wanted him to fight. So he's caught between this dilemma. What his own gut is telling him, his attachments to even the cousins, brothers, do you don't. Even though they tried to kill him and his brothers, he still said, I can't conceive of living if they're killed. This is the Vaishnava heart, So anyway, you know the dilemma. So he took the right course. Karpan nidosho bhata svabhava prichamitvam dharma samura cheta yakshe yaksanishitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadimam tvam papannam. He surrendered to the guru, the best guru they could possibly be, Krishna. So he's creeping on. I recognize these creeping activities, dropping my bow, Karpanya dosho, this fault, dosho bhata svabhava. My svabhava, which is be a great fighter, I've lost. It's been taken away by this miserliness that I've just been expressing this last chapter. Prichami tvam dharma suma. And I'm completely bewildered about what dharma is. What is the right thing to do here? There's a very, very important concern. What is the right thing to do? That's right not only for me, but for everybody. For best. I don't know. So I'm asking you to tell me for certain, what is dharma, what I should do. Yakshreyaksyan, by which I will get the ultimate good. Nishtitam, without doubt. Bruhitanme, please tell me about that. I am now your shishya. I'm not just acting as your friend. I'm not in that role anymore. Because friends can talk and debate for here to eternity and not come to it. But the disciple has to accept what the Guru says. So Shishyasteham, I'm your Shishya, I'm your disciple. Shadimam, please instruct me. Prapanna. The key word he says for end, I surrender to you. So very key, and we're all in that situation. Do we know the best thing to do for our welfare and the welfare of others? No. We have to hear from Krishna. Now, Battle of Kurukshetra was 5,000 years ago. Krishna's not here anymore. But he is here through his words. He is here through the words of his pure devotee. And he's here in the form of his name. So we can associate with him if we want to. And that's what this book is all about, and this institution is all about. Okay, any questions on this verse? Comments? Yes. Where is it? Who's got the mic? Ah.
Hare Krishna. Because practicing Krishna consciousness is so austere. Austere, yes.
Yeah.
You probably had a lot of people questioning this practice. Like, some people might have doubts. Are you seriously not eating meat? Are you really restraining your senses from sense objects? Did you ever have anything like that happen to you? People doubting you like that?
Personally I didn't, but I know that it has happened. Mostly what people were saying, which is what I said before I actually took up the process, is that that's not for me. These people are too weird. I wasn't curious enough even to get. I had to go through some hellish experiences. Most it was like a whole month in the hospital with a serious hepatitis. That kind of just, brought me low. And then to come out of that, I decided to do Hatha Yoga, which is to get my health back. And that's how I got into the yoga, groups. But, nowadays, we've been around for so long. Just surviving for so long, 60 years. I'm coming up on 60 years. So that alone kind of gives you some credibility. Maybe it's worth looking into. These people have been around for so long. That maybe they have something going on. But it really, it's a fortunate, there's all kinds of ways in which you can become open to Krishna consciousness. Sometimes it's a slap in the face in the material. Sometimes it's just from previous lifetime where you did some service, even unknowingly, and it's now fructifying. And the way it fructifies is you meet a devotee, someone like Dimitri, on the street, and instead of saying no time or no, thank you, or whatever they say, they say, well, let me check. What do you got there? Whatever. So it is a radical difference in outlook. And for many people, it seems inconceivable. But when you're able to taste, are able to suspend your disbelief and try the chanting, then Krishna, takes over. If you really try to just hear, even if it's just a technical thing, okay, I know I'm supposed to really concentrate. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Krishna notices that. And then sometimes, he'll put you through some stuff so that you say, God, I really need some shelter here, These people look pretty happy. Maybe I'll check them out, Come to the lounge. That sounds like fun. I can get into that Krishna lounge, Yes, Bhakta Soul.
Hare Krishna. I just had a quick question. I heard you in the back, and you were talking about in a previous life you made some good deeds.
Uh-huh.
And I was talking to Janardhan Prabhu today, and he said that as you start a life of a devotee, before you even hit kind of Godhead, you take 3 births. And he said to ask you because you may have mentioned it a while back. Or
I never heard that. Where is that coming from?
He said it in the Sastra, so I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah. Well, ask him where.
So you never heard of that? You don't take 3 births.
You mean,
In a devotional,
after you get I mean, we've taken millions of births.
Yeah.
3 births after what?
After you kind of start the process of, bhakti.
I mean, all I know is that Prabhupada was saying, try to go back in this lifetime. Now he didn't necessarily say that you didn't have some exposure in the previous lifetime, but I never heard that as 3 births. I mean, the thing is, it's all a voluntary process. If you commit offenses, you can take another 100 births or more. You eventually go back, and what you have is not going to be lost, but you can suspend it for a while if you're serious about, fighting against it and committing offenses, especially to devotees. Go ahead, Prabhu.
So Prabhu, I had a question regarding Karma Yoga.
Karma Yoga.
Yeah. So most devotees, like many devotees, they have like regular jobs which they're doing, which have no relation to Krishna.
Yes.
But so is it counted as Karma Yoga if you are doing your job and kind of like in a surrendered state of being? Like, does your internal state count, or do you have to kind of link your job to Krishna in some way?
Well, the idea behind Karma Yoga is that it's understood you're not going to be thinking of Krishna all the time.
Yeah.
But the more that the more simple that you can live,
Okay.
then you have some disposal income. So the question is, well, what are you going to do? You're going to go to Disney World, or no one goes there anymore? But in other words, with your disposable income, if you feel that, okay, well, let me donate to the temple, let me buy some boga, or something. In other words, then that's what and you're following Krishna here. Then you're saying this text 30 that I mentioned, surrendering all your works unto me. Well, obviously, you have to support your family and do everything and whatever. That's understood, but there's some discretion there. What you can do, how you're going to spend your free time. I mean, of course, there's less and less free time now. Everyone has to work so hard. But whatever time, you can come and do service to the temple, or you can kick back in some movie or something. So there's some discretion there. So the more that you can give to Krishna, either directly through some service or the fruits of the service, then whatever you did to get that fruit, that's no longer karma. In other words, you're free from any reaction from that. And by serving Krishna, you're taking a step toward becoming attached to him. Because you're doing it for Krishna because you like Krishna, or you like the devotees. Or in other words, it's part of becoming purified. So that's the understanding. If you're serious, you can try to live a family life according to the rules and regulations, and take initiation. And when festivals come, like we had our nice Rath Yatra festival, so many family people came. So it's a concession, because you can't join the ashram right away. You got the commitments. But the more serious you are, you'll be serious about sadhana, about the 4 regs, and about getting initiated. And these are important steps, of becoming detached. We're in a web. It's like in the 15th chapter, or in that banyan tree. I think, was it a banyan tree where we started? I mean, that was a huge tree. I remember a banyan tree where it puts down roots from the branches. And it's kind of, I've seen those in India, maybe a different kind of banyan. But it was a big tree. And so we're all entangled in there. How do we get out? Well, Krishna gives the formula. With the sword of detachment, you got to cut off the root, which is material desire. Because they go from one branch to another, thinking you're going to, gradual. It doesn't work that way, especially in Kali Yuga. So how to develop that detachment? Not artificially, but by developing attachment to Krishna. So the more sadhana we can do, the more serious we are about chanting and about serving as much as we can, giving as much as we can, then you're building that detachment from matter, and corresponding attachment to Krishna. And that's what really counts. All right, I'd like to read 1 or 2 more, and so we can approach our Let's see, 34. Let's do 35. That's the next one. Shreyan swadharmo viguna. Paradharmat swanushtitat. Swadharme dinanang shreyak. Paradharmo bhayavaha. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous. Purport. One should therefore discharge his prescribed duties in full Krishna consciousness rather than those prescribed for others. Materially, prescribed duties are duties enjoined according to one's psychophysical condition, under the spell of the modes of material nature. Spiritual duties are as ordered by the spiritual master for the transcendental service of Krishna. But whether material or spiritual, one should stick to his prescribed duties, even up to death, rather than imitate another's prescribed duties. Duties on the spiritual platform and duties on the material platform may be different, but the principle of following the authorized direction is always good for the performer. When one is under the spell of the modes of material nature, one should follow the prescribed rules for his particular situation and should not imitate others. For example, a Brahman who is in the mode of goodness is non-violent, whereas a Kshatriya who is in the mode of passion is allowed to be violent. As such, for a Kshatriya, it is better to be vanquished following the rules of violence than to imitate a Brahman who follows the principles of non-violence. Everyone has to cleanse his heart by a gradual process, not abruptly. However, when one transcends the modes of material nature and is fully situated in Krishna consciousness, he can perform anything and everything under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. In that complete stage of Krishna consciousness, the Kshatriya may act as a Brahman or a Brahman may act as a Kshatriya. In the transcendental stage, the distinctions of the material world do not apply. For example, Vishwamitra was originally a Kshatriya, but later on he acted as a Brahman, whereas Parashuram was a Brahman, but later on he acted as a Kshatriya. Being transcendentally situated, they could do so. But as long as one is on the material platform, he must perform his duties according to the modes of material nature. At the same time, he must have a full sense of Krishna consciousness. So, this is in the category of don't do anything radical to disrupt your wholesome situation. Because if you become too disturbed by trying to act and do something you're not qualified for, then you won't be able to practice Krishna consciousness. You know, you have to have a calm mind. So that's this idea of Swadharma. But so many verses we have in the Hare Krishna. What is that? Atak Pumbu Dvida Shrestha Varnashrama Vibhagasa Swanusitasya Dharmasya Sangsiri Haritoshanam. Swanustitasya Dharmasya. Suanustitasya, it says. Anustitasya Dharmasya. In other words, this Varnashram Dharma, which divides society into those four spiritual orders and four material orders, social orders. So we're situated in one of those. And if you do it very nicely, but you're not serving Krishna, then it's all Shrama Evahi Kevalam. He said the whole purpose of activity on the material side is to satisfy Krishna, to be moving toward Krishna consciousness, which is detachment. You know, it's beyond Varnashram. So therefore, this is in the realm of don't disrupt your life and the life of others by trying to do something you're not qualified for. Find your niche, act according to that, and add as much Krishna consciousness as possible, so that you're serving Krishna with the fruits of your activity or directly, and in the time you have at your disposal, you're using for advancing Krishna consciousness, chanting the holy name, studying the Shastra, becoming more, because knowledge is so important. We act really according to our intelligence. If our intelligence is filled with all kinds of material things, then we'll be blocked from Krishna consciousness. It won't seem interesting to us. But if we're fortunate enough to be reflect on our eternal situation and what's the meaning of life, and asking those questions. What is that verse? Parabhavasthabara jato. Yavana jigyastat tattva. Parabhavas means defeat. Defeat in the human form of life means just to die without any inkling of your real nature as a spirit soul, or who is God, or who is Krishna, and just to be cast into your next body, without any regulation. And in this age of, in the age of Kali, that's a very dangerous situation. That's defeat. So what is he saying here? Parabhavas, this is Rishabdev speaking. Parabhavas tavata bodha jato. This defeat is born of ignorance. Abodha. Abodha means ignorance. Jata. And therefore, yavana jigyasadat atma tattva. As long as you don't inquire into the truth of the soul, atma tattva, then you're going to remain ignorant and you're going to be defeated again and again. Take birth. Yavat kriyas tavadidam manovayas. Because your mind, will be colored with these fruit of desires. Totally. That's called yavat kriyas tavat idam manovai. Manovai is full of this kriya, with this idea for materialism. Yavat kriyas tavat idam manovai karmatmakam. Full with fruit of desire. Just like people have so many desires and so many aversions. The other side. So many fears, so many, sometimes that's all they have. There's really no sense gratification. Horrible. But those dualities we're trying to transcend. If your desire is to serve Krishna, you can serve in any condition. You may be, not have any paraphernalia except your voice, your mind, and your ear. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. That's the perfect service of that situation. And if you have if you have a book bag, and you have other paraphernalia, you can do so many other things. But the point is that one has to have the knowledge of what's important to do, and with the knowledge and also the determination to follow the injunctions of the Shastra. Just like it is said, and we'll maybe end here. Jnane priyasam udapasya namante eva. This is a verse by Lord Brahma. It's a prayer to Lord Krishna. Krishna's a little boy, 4 years old, 5 years old. This is a calf herd. He's got a little fruit in his hand. And now, big Lord Brahma, he's offering his prayers to that little boy, because yes, this really is God. So, Jnane priyasam. So this is an instruction to us. Throw away your attempt to speculate on your own and figure out what's the absolute truth and what's right to do. That's not going to make it. Namanteva, surrender to what? To the sound vibrations emanating from the mouth of the pure devotees. San Mukaditam. Sat is short for Santa or saints. Mukaditam. Bhavadiya Vartam, who are speaking about you, Krishna. Bhavadiya Vartam, news about you, Krishna. Jnane priyasam upasyanam jivanti san mukaditam bhavadiya Vartam. Stane sitak. Don't do anything radical. Stay in your position, your social position. But add this hearing. And then the key phrase is tanuvan manobir, and it's not just hearing in one ear and out the other, so to speak. But it's you serve these vibrations with your body, with your words, and with your mind. So with your body, you try to execute the instructions. With your words, you repeat them, and with your mind, you think about them, you discuss them, you meditate on them. And this activity, ye praya so arjita jita, you are able to conquer the unconquerable Lord, who is otherwise unconquerable. In all three worlds, it's the only way to do that. So how to conquer him? By love. That's the way, the first step is always hearing. The very essential first step and many future steps in developing pure love for Krishna. The only way to conquer. And that's really what this is all about. By developing so much love that Krishna will agree to appear before you. You'll be able to see him. All right, it's time for RT. You going to be able to stay? Good. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And just one